when you create new neurons, it's important to know that these new neurons are actually physiologically different than the mature neurons that you already have in your body, brain, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, etc., etc. Anyway, so these new neurons are more excitable. That's one difference than the way the existing mature neurons work. So what that means is basically they have what's called a lower action potential threshold, and that means that, like, let's say mature neurons require 100 volts, let's say, in order to fire. Obviously it's a lot less than that, but it's an example so you understand. 100 volts in order to get a mature neuron to fire. Well, these new neurons, they are more excitable, so it means that in order to cause it to fire, which is, what is important for a neuron to do, through stimulus, through learning, through adapting, those are the biggest ways, seeing new things, experiencing new things, those are the greatest ways. Movement, oh my Lord, you could use movement to jack up the amount of information you get from your environment, and that really engages creation of new neurons. So these new neurons, while mature neurons require 100 volts, and I'm going to have to look this up now, that's who I am, to find out exactly what the action potential threshold number is, or if you know, please put it in the comment section. So anyways, the new neurons, mature neurons 100, these new neurons, let's say 50 volts, or 50% of what the mature neurons require in order to initiate. So firing is the same as initiating or coming into play. We're talking about baby neurons. So what's interesting is whatever you focus on during the process of creating all of these new neurons, these baby neurons are going to jump right in front and help you, assist you in the creation of whatever it is you're focusing on. So not only do you have to, like, let's say, exercise for long periods of time in order to really jack up the amount of proprioception and counteroception information you receive from your body to bombard the reticular activating system, which one of its jobs is to filter out the data that's coming in. So what I like to think I do when I'm working out like Superman, trying to focus the mind, is that what I'm doing is I'm bombarding this reticular activating system with so much information, and I believe that it can hold back only so much information before the floodgates just go through. It's accustomed to regulating your normal information input, which is daily plasticity occurs, which is basically practice makes perfect, or that's how routine is created in your life. So you do it one day, you do it the next, you do it the next, you do that for 90 days, chances are it's going to become a habit. Because you've now created these new highways by repetition in your brain that, that becomes your default go-to reality. So you have to put work in by way of discipline. That's one of the greatest forces man has, discipline. With that, I argue, you can do anything else. Just having that one trait, discipline, but you got to be careful. We're not talking overboard, like over the top, my way or the highway, period. You just do what's good for you, and other people do what's good for them, hopefully, and just go from there. So discipline, but you don't need to force anyone around you to do anything they don't want. You can only lead them to water. But anyway, so here we are creating new neurons. They're more excitable. So when you have new thoughts after creating these new neurons, I argue that that's one of the best ways. Goals are great. They're even more powerful than just thoughts alone, because you're sitting there, invoking emotion as well. The more things you can invoke into your powers of manifestation, the better. So, mind focus, body amped up, brain juiced from, getting all that stimulation, which is all converted into electricity that goes to your brain. It's like turning up a light outlet, I like to say. The lights with the dimmer switch. You put up the switch, the lights get brighter. Same with your brain. And the way to bring up that dimmer switch is through intense exercise of all kinds. As intense as sprinting. But when I came across this, I just did this workout in a small room while going through college. And that small room had small area in order to actually work out in. And somehow, even though I was using fluoride for toothpaste, none of that shit stopped me from connecting powerfully to be able to explain to you these things that I am right now. So let's go back to the new neurons. So they fire off more easily. So essentially, they kind of hijack your brain with whatever new thoughts you introduce. So the potential for change is amazing. And also to note, giving your mind goals, returning to that. Basically, I argue, my philosophy, my theory, working theory, is that just like when you work out, obviously the amount of weight that you're using has an effect on whatever muscle you're utilizing. And that muscle is going to try to adapt to the amount of weight that you're using to the best of its ability. Well, the body knows where to lay down the new muscle cells in order to do this, and basically that's along the lines of resistance that you introduce to those specific muscles, muscle area, and congruently the whole muscle and everything else, really, even your posture muscles, will fire and try to make it as comfortable as possible, and eventually even adapt and overcome and be ready for the next level. So you got to constantly be pushing yourself. That's the way you work out. So once again, going back to the fire. So goals are really important because it's what you focus on. That really, you're turning your brain up like a light switch. The way you move that light switch up is by using your body, introducing as much information from your surroundings as possible. Excite your body, and that sends a lot of electricity to your brain. So now you're dealing with not only a more focused brain, which is frequency, tapping into, but you're giving it power. So not only do you need to know what frequency to focus on or tap into, spoiler alert, the only one I tap into is the highest in my mind, and that is pure energy. I know it exists in the universe, and it is powerful. I always have to throw in more parameters into manifesting. I suggest everyone do that. So it's not just pure energy. Obviously, I want it to be good, because there's all kinds of energy. I think there's a 360-degree amount of energy. And I posit that 100% represents that 360 degrees, but I know this energy spectrum to be infinite. So 100% of infinite is what exists as far as energy spectrum. And I see it in a full circle. from the center to the... Anyway, so that's the energy I tap into. Put pure, good, great, beauty. So you start adding things you want to manifest. God knows I got to manifest some beauty now. For the first time this last year, I think I've aged more than I have my first... I don't even want to say how old I am. That many years, you know, I was able to keep it still, but the amount of stress that I felt, and a lot of it is because I can't release it through physical exercise. I experienced an injury, my own fault, but man, I never thought that I wouldn't be able to exercise on demand the way I'd like to do it. You know, the way I need to do it to kill off whatever stress is manifesting. I require a lot in order to become a superpower. So anyways, let's get back to these new neurons. You give them a direction to go to. They don't have the limitation of the existing mature neurons, because the existing mature neurons are basically wanting to stay on the same highway. That's the highway they created through plasticity. It's like the more you practice something, your neurons basically align and make pathways to make it easier to fire in that direction again. It's easy to get on that new built highway versus going on a jungle road that's, you know, making its way through nature, you know? It's like you're a pioneer if you're a neuron that's trying to create a new road, a new direction that, you know, you go in. And you're going to want the right tools. You're going to want a 4x4 that can handle whatever river you might have to drive through, or whatever potholes are in the road, or whatever. You know, the better tools that you use in order to do this, focusing more, sending actual power through proprioception, mechanoreception, those are... So mechanoreception is like when you push on your skin, there are... I think they were called corpuscles or something like that, but they're really trippy design. It's like these nerve endings that kind of twist and turn, and when you apply force to, let's say, the skin, your dermis, these proprioceptors, mechanoreceptors, they fire off and send information about, you know, something's touching your skin. I mean, that's their job. So when you're exercising, you are sending so much of this information through the force in your feet, through the movement. A lot of it is the movement of your body itself in time-space. Very powerful apparatus, inner ear. There's little hairs called cilia. And there's this fluid floating in that ear canal, essentially, this area, that's responsible for sending your brain the stimulus of your position, time, space. And the way those little hairs work, and with the fluid inside it, I forget what that fluid is. If you know what it is, please put it in the comment section. Love you guys. And feel free to add more information that you think is pertinent. So yeah, these little hairs, they're stimulated by something called an otolith. And lith in some language, I don't know if it's Latin or whatever. Anyways, lith is rock in some old language. And they're little rocks that float inside this fluid. And when you move your position of your neck, your head, these little rocks and the fluid, obviously the fluid balances out inside your ear apparatus. And when it levels out, it moves all the little rocks that are just suspended in it, and these little rocks will hit along the cilia or hair, you know, along the inside, and that stimulus is sent to your brain, and you know, it figures out, oh, which way is up. Essentially, is one of the most important ones. You know, along, I don't argue, I posit, along the lines of gravity, because that's up. I don't know, you can't define what gravity is, I know it is an entity, but let's just, make it simple. It's up to us. Gravity is up to us. And I think that's the most important understanding of gravity in this form. There are other powers in the universe, things that hold atoms together. It's on a small, tiny level. And then I'm pretty sure there's even greater forces that we can't even... honestly, I think to us, gravity is one of the greatest forces to relate with in this universe in order to unlock the powers of the mind. And I'll explain to you how. It's movement. Your position, time, space. How do you know that? Gravity tells you. Use it as a tool, a powerful tool. Just like you want 4x4 treading new roads in the, wherever you're traveling. And it's easier to take the highway, So you want to stay the same. It's the way you're programmed. The way you are programmed is the thing you did yesterday, the day before that, the day before that. Creating new neurons and giving a new direction to go to is the quickest way to hijack this whole process. They're jumping in front going me, 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 me because they fire off so much easier. So you go, hey, okay, now I'm focused. Now I got all this power coursing through me. I am gonna focus on this. And the imagination is the most important, one of the most important aspects of this portion of mind work. And like I said, if you're going to focus your mind on something, I figure, I rationalize, I reason. I was built to seek the highest, and what is the highest? I get to define it. I'm not going to, wait for some, other genius to define what he saw some 1,000 years ago or hundreds of years ago. Yeah, it built on their shoulders, sure. Consciousness is a collective thing. So, you want it to always be elevating, to increase the default existence of all. It benefits everyone. There's not one person that would not, or thing, not one person, animal, flower, thing in the universe. Atoms, electricity, magnetism, you name it, man. Gravity, all of it. All of it elevates. You want to up the consciousness of the whole universe itself, not just your own. Yeah, it helps. Obviously, you want to start with you. You want to see how greatly your mind can actually work, and that involves body, mind, body, brain, how it functions. We got to go back to 101 and even start, on an infinite consciousness expansion path. I mean, that's where you got to go. Not only is it just advance, no, you got to take it there, man. Peace, purity, love, pure good light, great light, powerful coursing channeling it through your body. So this energy, which I define as my God, the pure energy, pure good, great, etc., etc., from center, imagine, of yourself to the end, you create an infinite line through your body, through your mind, as you face up. So you become a tuning fork with your hands up, like spread a little bit, create sort of an X, but really it's sort of like a U on the upper half of the torso, and an upside down U on the bottom. So anyways, face up, palms up, you want to be receiving this information, this energy. And only that energy. Do not cavort with any other energy. No other energy is worth allowing, inviting into you. No other energy aside from that should be worked with in order to take it to the infinite top. How do you keep it infinite? Well, first, how do you tap into it? Focus the mind. 2 hours intense exercise. Also powering up the mind through movement. Proprioception, counterception, force, position, time, space. And then, now that you have all that electricity amped up through your body, through your movement, and focused frequency, tapped into the right frequency, I explained to you, only pure, good, great energy, that's your frequency. Then next is being able to channel long enough and strong enough and powerfully enough that you become this energy. So you become what you define as God. If you define God to be pure, good, great energy, you know, things that represent the beauty in this world. So that's what I got for right now. Thank you for paying attention. If you paid attention this long and you like the stuff, there's other videos I have available. Catch me on YouTube. I'll link that below, or on Facebook. You can follow me on there. I post a lot of crazy shit that I think all of it is true. I like to spin humor into the most dire of seeming outcomes of reality, which I'm trying to change. Gotta make it better for you, for me, for all. Love you. Hit like and subscribe.